welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we will talk about how to get rid of spider mites on orchids, and more exactly I will talk with you about how to recognize spider mite damage on orchid leaves, and I will tell all the methods of control that I know, and basically those would be the homemade insecticides like oil treatment, hairspray. Then I will talk with you about insecticides, and I will give you quite a few ones that are very effective on them. And then I will talk about something that I personally didn't find on internet yet, at least not about orchids specifically, and those would be the biological control methods to get rid of this, because there are indeed some natural predators for them. So with that being said, let's get started. I must say I don't really have a lot of examples for you of how spider mite damage looks like, but here I have an example. On oncidium type leaves, usually you will start to see the infection that occurs after the mites bite on the leaf, and that would be some black spots, tiny little spots all along the leaf. And if you will rub with an cotton pad on the underside of the leaf, you will quite often see red residue on it, and that is your indicator that your orchid had spider mites. This one had them in the past. I'm sure now it doesn't have it because I actually checked it. But here I have another example. This is a very old Bartley Schwartz that I have. This is the red variety, that is the white variety. So here I have some 5 years old leaves. These were the ones that the orchid had when I have purchased it, and we still have the spider mite damage on them. They are starting now to fall, which is good, because as you can see, all the new leaves on my orchid look very well. But again, these are some signs. On dendrobiums, I don't really have an example right now to show to you, but on Dendrobium nobilis, if you will look very closely on the leaf, you will see little tiny bites on the leaf, like your pores on your skin. That is what it reminds me of. Now, on other orchids, like this one, and this one is infected, you will see a silvery appearance on the leaves. I'm trying to find a better example, maybe on this one. So it has a slightly silvery appearance, and the most you can see it on this spike. I will put you some pictures on the screen with some close-ups, but the spikes of this orchid are full of spider mites. And this is because I did not apply the insecticides on her, and yeah, this is the result. I did suspect that she has mites. I will go now. Yeah, here I have a zygopetalum, and sometimes the spots on their leaves can be caused by a bacterial brown infection, but sometimes it is because of spider mite damage. And for the longest time I did not had any troubles with these spots. This is a newly purchased orchid for about 2 months now, I think, and she did came with the spots on me. I think they are bacterial and not spider mite damage, but they do look pretty identical actually, only that after you apply the insecticide on the orchid, the spots won't continue to enlarge, but on this one they do. So that means that she does have a bacterial infection. I just wanted to show to you that when you see this type of infection on your zygopetalum, I think you first should apply an insecticide treatment, and if the spots do continue to enlarge, and increase in number, you should then think to apply a bactericide or a fungicide treatment. Here I have another example, a very old leaf on a Oncidium, and this was indeed in the past infected with spider mites when I have received it, and here is the damage that they left. This is because the bites get infected. And here is how a spider mite free Dendrobium nobile leaf should look like. And when they do have spider mites, you will see tiny little pores on it, and again, if you rub some cotton pads, you will actually find the red residue. And indeed, as I have showed to you, I don't really have a lot of examples of how spider mite damage looks like. I will take some older pictures, maybe I will find in those, but in present I don't have any spider mites on my orchid collection except on the newly purchased orchids, like on the Miltoniopsis I have showed to you previously. And yeah, this is because I am very good in controlling these pests. And first I will explain to you what homemade treatments you can do, and the first and most popular one I think would be the homemade oil treatment. And for this you will need some mineral oil like paraffin. I usually use baby oil, a sprayer with a very fine mist. This is very important. If you don't use the finest mist that you can get, the droplets of oil will be too big, and I have actually encountered this. And then the oil was absorbed through the leaves, and the orchid did have then necrotic spots because the oil suffocate the leaf. Then you will need something you will measure the water and the oil with. I like to use a syringe for the oil and a graded cup for the water, and some dish detergent like fairy. The concentration would be 1% oil, and to calculate that you will need to do some math, but I will make it for you. For example, for 100 milliliters of water I add 1.5 milliliters of oil and 2 drops of dish detergent like a fairy one, and then I mix it very well inside that sprayer, and you should spray all the orchid, the top part of the leaf, the underside, even the spikes. Very important to spray even the stakes of the orchid, everything, because the mites can be anywhere. Now, to be quite honest, this is my least preferred method because it's quite tricky if you will not have a very fine mist. By the way, this method I didn't invent it, Dani found it, and I will post a link in the info card right now, and you will see how she developed it. I'm just presenting all the methods that I know. Then the second one would be the hairspray. What can I say about hairspray? It is super easy, super cheap, and all you need to do it is to spray very well the top part, again everything on the orchid, but it is very important to try to spray from about 30 centimeters away from the plant, because when you actually press on the sprayer, the spray comes very cold. That is important thing, and you can get cold damage on some very fresh newly grown leaves, and then that leaf can die because you put the sprayer too close to the leaf. So that is very important. The method or the way the mites die from the oil treatment and the hairspray, it is by suffocation. This creates a very fine mist on the leaf, and then the mites which are already there will suffocate and die, and then the eggs in a few days will also hatch and die. So it is very important to leave the oil treatment and the hairspray for at least 10 to 15 days. On the oil treatment, normally you should not rinse then the orchid, there is no need to, but it is very important not to keep the orchid in a very sunny location, because the oil will help the leaf get more warm, and then you will have easier sunburns. On the hairspray, it is very important after about maximum 20 days to rinse the leaves, and I would take a makeup brush, the one that is very fluffy, with some warm water and some dish detergent. I will scrub very well the top part and the underside of the leaf to release the pores and let them breathe. Don't panic, because the orchid will not suffocate because you leave for 20 days the hairspray. But as I said, these methods for me do imply some disadvantages. On the hairspray, you need to scrub it very well afterwards, and for me that is a bit harder to do. I never really get to do it perfectly. I do still have some hairspray on the orchids which have been sprayed. And with the oil treatment, it is the fact that you need a very fine spray mist. And the two methods that I believe are the best to control spider mites, it is by using insecticides or by using biological control methods. Now, because in Romania predatory mites are a bit harder to find and they are quite expensive in here, rather in comparison to in USA or UK, where you find them really easy and quite cheap, I prefer to use insecticides. This is what I can use, but in the past I did use one time predatory mite, and I will talk about that at the end of the video. For insecticides, there are very many on the market which are effective, but you need to make sure that you use them by rotation, otherwise you will risk causing resistance, and then that particular substance will not ever kill them again, so you need to pay extra attention. I would never use the same substance on my orchids, or the same active ingredient actually, because sometimes there can be many insecticides with different names but the same active ingredient, so never use the same active ingredient more than 3 times in a season, and by rotation, not 3 times one after the other. So here are a few insecticides with active ingredients that I will mention. First will be milbec nog with the active ingredient milbectin. This is super effective. The spider mites die very fast, let's say, and it is active. Then it is a systemic insecticide, and it is effective on your plants the longest, I think, for about 3 months, which is super good. Then we have floramite with the active ingredient bifenazate, but this is again very effective and quite easy to find. Any acaricide with the active ingredient abamectin, and here in Romania we have vertimec with this one. Then we have sunmite with the active ingredient piridaben. Then we have sultan with the active ingredient ciflumetophen. Then we have tetrasan with the active ingredient etoxazole. We have then novadim, which is also very effective, with dimetoad. And the last one that I will mention, it is Envidor with the active ingredient spirodiclofen. Yeah, I was quite crazy to pronounce these names. You will find all these informations in the description of this video, and also in the comment section below. I will post links for all the products that I have mentioned, and that should help you quite a lot. And the last one, and pretty much my preferred method to use if I would find them more easily in my country, it is the biological control methods. And by this I mean that you can apply some predator mites. There are some insects that kill spider mites, and they don't harm at all your orchids. They will actually die once you don't have any more spider mites on your orchids, are the predatory mites. Now okay guys, so I just want to show to you that they are still alive. As you can see, I started to release some of them, and they are crawling here on my hand actually. So I am going to release some more, and hope this will treat my infestation. Can you see what I see? Can you see how many of them they are there? So I am going to put this cap here because I cannot really release these ones by myself, and I hope by tomorrow they will be on these plants, because these orchids came with me from UK, and yeah, I hope if it's anything there, this will help. And another thing that I want to show you, it is the rest of the cap. The rest of the product was looking like this, and was that vermiculate with this litter mites. And what I did, actually I didn't put little bit of each plant because I have a big collection, over 150 plants. So what I did was doing like this, like putting pepper on your food or something like that, and it's super easy. Now, as I said, I have used this method only one time in the past, and it was very effective, and I just cannot understand why people who can find predatory mites don't use them, because they are not super expensive and they are very effective, especially when you keep your orchids on windowsills, or when you have greenhouses or things like that on a balcony. It is super easy to use. I don't know why people hassle with insecticides and homemade treatments when you have these. In my country they are too expensive, to be honest, and yeah, I do what I can. But for example, Roger, I know sometimes he had problems with spider mites, or Danny. I just cannot understand why they don't apply predatory mites, but yeah, that is just my opinion. So predatory mites, predatory midges and predatory beetles can all be used in a biological control program. As I said, in the past I did apply one time a predatory mite, and that was Phytoseiulus persimilis. This would be the most effective predatory mite that is known. Adult Phytoseiulus persimilis feeds on all stages of two-spotted spider mites. This specialist predator can only survive by feeding upon two-spotted spider mites. The adult of this predatory mite is bright red in color, pear-shaped, long-legged, and slightly larger and more active than a spider mite. Adult females lay eggs that are about 3 times the size of the two-spotted spider mite eggs, and are also more football-shaped than the round two-spotted spider mite eggs. The development time for the predatory mite is shorter than for spider mites, about 5 days at 86 Fahrenheit, 9 days at 68 Fahrenheit, and 25 days at 59 Fahrenheit. At temperatures above 86 Fahrenheit, the predatory mite can't keep up with the reproduction of the two-spotted spider mite. At low relative humidity, less than 60%, eggs shrivel and do not hatch. Optimum conditions are relative humidity above 75% and temperatures over 68 Fahrenheit. The predatory mite is attracted to the chemical odors produced by plants infected with spider mites as it searches for its prey by touch and scent. Both adults and nymphs actively search plants for two-spotted spider mites. Phytoseiulus persimilis can spread throughout a greenhouse as long as plant leaves are in contact with each other. This is pretty much the reason why I like to keep my orchids so close to one another, because it is easier for them to be effective. The biological control agent has been used in commercial greenhouses, especially greenhouse vegetables, ever since 1960s. And here are some very important tips for using Phytoseiulus persimilis in your or on your orchid collection. You need to release them early when the mite populations are low and the two-spotted spider mites are first noticed. This voracious specialist predatory mite needs to have spider mite prey or it will disperse or starve. Phytoseiulus persimilis is available either in a granular carrier or on bean leaves with all the life stages and the food source. In my case, when I have used it in the past, it was in a very small container with some very little pieces of bark, I believe, if I remember correctly, very fine dusty one, let's say, and it was very active, as you can see. Using a carrier product like I have used, check first by sprinkling some of the product onto a white sheet of paper and look for the active predatory mites. Gently roll the tube to mix the predatory mites in the carrier before application. Then sprinkle material on the leaves. Concentrate releases near hot spots of mite activity. I do believe you need to pay some extra attention to the humidity you are providing when you are trying to use this predatory mite, and the best way would be to use a humidifier on your orchid collection or near it. And I will put a link in the comment section below so you can actually see some great products that you can use as humidifiers. So adults and nymphs are actively searching for prey and they will suck them until they dry. The spider mite colonies should be reduced in 2 to 3 weeks after you first applied the predatory mite. As I said, you will find links down below for everything. To evaluate the effectiveness, look for that shriveled spider mites that have been fed upon. For that you can use a magnifying glass or one of those electronic devices. Again, links are below. And for more information about pesticides compatibility, you should contact your supplier for the predatory mites. Some insecticides do not kill mites or predatory mites because for spider mites we should use acaricides and not only pesticides. So you might get away if you apply some insecticides, but I cannot really pronounce myself on this, so for that you should contact the person you are buying from. Other than that, I think again I have covered pretty much all. As I said, my orchid collection is pretty much free of all these pests because I am very cautious when I see them. I separate new orchids, I do them treatments for spider mites even though I do not see them. So a good preventive action would be that you actually spray all new orchids before putting them in your collection, and I spray all my orchid collection as a prevention 2 times per year in summer and before I bring them back indoors for the ones that are outdoors. But anyway, on all my orchid collection 2 times a year, in summer and somewhere in late autumn. So alright guys, if you have any questions, please leave them down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. I hope this video helps you, and yeah, if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, you should definitely do so because I post very interesting videos regularly. And thank you very much for watching and see you all next time. Bye!